So before I start the chapter, let me walk you through how to access the revision notes and the test series in our application. If you go to classix.com and click on practice, you have different packages available here. But since we are dealing with NEET Premium, let us click on NEET Premium. And once you click on NEET Premium, at the top you have revision notes. If you click on revision notes, it opens in a new tab. And here we are having tests for different subject, that is your physics, chemistry and biology, and a NEET full test. In NEET full test, if you go, it has two sections. One set of tests which is prepared by Classix tutor and the other is our past papers. And if you click on each subject, the subject will have chapter wise test, and each chapter has a number of tests. That means based on the weightage of the chapter, we have decided the number of tests. So let us come back. Today we are going to talk about solid state. So we all know that solid state, and as far as the weightage is concerned, you will get one question from this chapter, solid state. So when we talk about solid state, we are having different states of matter, that is solid, liquid and gas. But here in this chapter, we are going to discuss about solid state in detail. And there are few important sections which is important in the point of, or if we take in the exam point of view. So when we say solid state, that is states of matter can be classified into three types: solid, liquid and gases. But when we talk about solid, there are certain properties which comes in our mind based on its saying that it has definite shape, it has fixed volume, or they cannot flow, it has high density and many more. Liquid and gases, on the other hand, if you talk, they are another state of matter and we call that as fluids, because they have the tendency or they have the ability to flow. So when we say that matter which possess rigidity, having definite shape and volume, that is what we call it as a solid. Matter that is going to possess rigidity, having definite shape and volume, that is what we call it as a solid. So when we talk about solid, solids are being classified into different types. Solids are being classified into different types. We can say that it has amorphous crystalline solid, amorphous solid, metallic, ionic. So for example, if we say what is amorphous solid, the term you can say amorphous solid is actually meaning of amorphous says that it is no form. That is, they are particles, or the particles in amorphous solid will be arranged in short range order, and that is going to give you a regular and periodically repeating pattern over short distance. It will give you short. So amorphous solids are the solid in which the constituent particles of matter will be arranged in a random manner. That is more important. It is being arranged in a repeating pattern, or we can say it as a random manner. And when we talk about crystalline solids will contain regular arrangement and they have a short range as well as long range order. They have a regular arrangement. So when we are talking about different solids, we should know the difference, how it is, or what is the difference between crystalline, amorphous, ionic, metallic. So crystalline is solid that is going to have definite characteristics, we can say, or that can have geometrical shape, or we can also say it is having a regular arrangement, having a short range. And the third one we talk about is our ionic solids. So when we say ionic solids, they are composed of oppositely charged ions in which your constituent particles, that is you can say positive or negative ions, they are held together by electrostatic force of attraction. So immediately we can say that the solids is going to be composed of three-dimensional arrangement of your cations and anions, which are bonded by strong electrostatic force. Or also we can conclude from that they will be our electrical insulators in solid state because of the absence of the movement of ions or free electrons, but are they will be good conductor in molten state, because in molten state the ions movement will be there, but when we say solid it is not possible, or you can say that they are bad conductor or they are insulators in solid state. And the next type is here metallic, what we say in metallic solids. So metallic solids, sorry, so when we say molecular solid, not metallic solid, molecular solids, solids which is composed of your molecules as the constituent particles. It is composed of the molecules as the constituents particle, and the molecular solids can be classified as non-polar molecular solids and polar molecular solids, that is a section or we can say categorized. And next when we are saying it as covalent solids are crystalline solids of non-metals. Covalent bonding it should form. So immediately things should strike in our mind that crystalline solids of non-metals comprises of your covalent bond between the adjacent atom that are strong and it is directional in nature. It is strong and directional in nature. And now we can say what is metallic solid. So when we say as your metallic solid, what does it mean is these solids positive ion will be surrounded by mobile free electrons and are evenly spread all over the crystal. In this solids, positive ion is surrounded by mobile free electrons and they are evenly spread all over crystals. So there are different types of our solid. We are having even covalent solids, ionic solids, molecular solids. So these are all called as the, you can say categories or different types of solid. And next important factor which we should know is called as crystal lattice. What is crystal lattice? It is nothing but the crystalline solids will have actually a regular and periodically repeating pattern of constituent particles. They have a repeating pattern of constituent particles. So what happened in that is the diagrammatical or representation of these three-dimensional arrangement of your constituent particles of a crystal in space, and each particle will be, you can say that it is depicted as a point, and that is what you call it as crystalline lattice. And basically till now there are only 14 possible three-dimensional lattices are known, and we call that as Bravais lattices. And each point in a lattice you call it as lattice point, or either we say it as lattice site. And each point in your crystal lattice means one constituent particle, which can be an atom, it can be a molecule, or it can be an ion. And when we talk about lattice point, they are basically joined together using a straight line to identify the geometry of that particular lattice. So when we are talking about crystal lattice, we should know what are all the different categories for it. In that we have unit cell, or what are all the possible arrangements. So when we say about unit cell, you can say that this is the smallest portion of your crystal lattice. This is the smallest portion of our crystal lattice. And a unit cell, if we say, it is basically categorized by the dimension along the three edges when you draw a three-dimensional figure that may be or may not be mutually perpendicular. That may be or may not be mutually perpendicular. And then it has an angle between the edges. That is, it can be, if you are saying a three-dimensional figure, between that you will have an angle. And angle, you can say that between your edge A, if I suppose take this as edge A. So between the angles, you can say that the angle is, or the angle will be formed. And when we talk about your primitive unit cell, what does it mean as your primitive unit cell? This is present only on the corner. This is being present on the corner position of your unit cell. It is present in the corner position of the unit cell. So when we are saying, and the other type is your centered unit cell. If the constituent particles of your crystal lattice are present at position other than the corner, along with that, in addition to those at the corner, we call it as centered unit cell. Centered unit cell. So basically we have centered unit cell is categorized into centered unit cell is categorized, or we can say, are of three types: your body centered unit cell, face centered unit cell, and your end centered unit cell. So when we say, this is the most important part of the chapter, this is the most important part of your chapter, that is your BCC, FCC, and our end centered. So when we say BCC, if the constituent particles of your unit cell are present at its body centered, besides the one that are at the corners, apart from that, so that we call it as our BCC. And face centered unit cell, if the constituent particles of a unit cell are present at the center of each face, if it is present at the center of each face, apart from the one that are at the corner, that will be there. Apart from that, if the particles of the unit cell are present in the face center, we say that it is FCC. And end centered, of course, the unit cell will be present at the center of any two opposite face apart from the one that is present at its corner. So that is what we call it as our end centered. And number of atoms per unit cell for different one we have to know. That is, if I talk about primitive unit cell or primitive cubic unit cell, each cubic unit cell will have 8 atoms on its corner, and then the total number of atoms in one unit cell, if I want to calculate, you can say 8 into 1 by 8, that will be equal to 1 atom. In the similar way, we can calculate for BCC, that in BCC, in the atoms are present in the body center apart from the ones that are at its corner, so that it is to the unit cell in which it is going to be present. So if I want to calculate for body centered, it is of course 8 into 1 by 8, that is 8 corners. So it will give you 1 atom, and 1 is being present at the body. 1 body centered atom it has. So when we sum up these two, we get 2. So total number of atoms per unit cell will be equal to 2 atoms for body centered, or simple term we use is our BCC. The similar way, if we try to calculate for FCC, each atom is going to be present at the face centered, that is shared between two adjacent unit cell, that is shared between 2 adjacent unit cell, and only a half of each atom will belong to a unit cell. So when we say 8 corners, that means 8 into 1 by 8, that will give us 1, but we have 6 face centered atoms, so 6 into half, which is equal to 3. So total number of atoms per unit cell in face centered is equal to 4. This is the most important part of this chapter. And next important part we have to talk about is packing efficiency. What is packing efficiency? Packing efficiency is nothing but the percentage of space occupied by constituent particle which is packed inside the lattice, That is the most important factor. And when we are talking about packing efficiency, we should know the formula. And it says that the packing fraction is the fraction of volume in a crystal structure which is being occupied by the constituent particles, and basically it is a dimensionless quantity and it will always be less than unity. So we can say packing efficiency, percentage of space being occupied, and packing fraction, it is fraction of volume in that particular crystal structure in which that is occupied by the constituent particles. So basically when we are talking about packing efficiency, for each one we should be able to calculate. So for example, if we try to calculate packing efficiency in HCP, basically packing efficiency formula is volume occupied by 4 spheres in the unit cell into 100 divided by volume of the unit cell. So if we take if we consider an HCP, that is unit cell, let us assume edge length be equal to A and face diagonal you can say it to be equal to B. So when we calculate that, each unit cell in your CCP structure will have actually 4 spheres, and hence the total volume of your 4 spheres will become as, we know that formula will for volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube, but here we are having 4 spheres, hence we could say that it is 4 into 4 by 3 pi r cube. And of course we all know volume of the cube is equal to A cube, and we know that A value for CCP is equal to 4r by root 2, or you can say that it is 2 root 2r. Hence, in place of volume, we can say 2 root 2r the whole cube into 100. So, when you calculate that, we get it as 16 by 3 pi r cube into 100. And you could say that total or packing efficiency of CCP is equal to be 74%. And if we try to calculate the packing efficiency in body centered, same formula you can apply. We know that volume of a cube, as usual, it is A cube, and here our R value will be, do remember what is the radius, how edge and the radius are related in different structure. For example, in BCC, how it is related, in FCC, how it is related. For example, in BCC, we can say that root 3A will be equal to your 4R, or we say that R is equal to root 3 by 4A. It's very important to know the relation or the relation between your edge, radius, what is the volume. So these are all very important factor. And this type of structure will have basically 2 atoms, and hence you can say that their volume will become as your 2 into 4 by 3 pi r cube. And of course, we have calculated the radius to be root 3 by 4a, and but we need here volume, so you could substitute that, and when you calculate you'll get it to be 68 percentage. And it's important to remember packing efficiency. And packing efficiency, if you calculate in simple cubic, it's still simpler because in simple cubic, A is going to be equal to your 2R, and volume we can say A cube is equal to 2R, the whole cube, which will give you 8R cube. And here a radius of the volume of the cube of your unit cell we have calculated as A cube to be equal to 8R cube. We could substitute. This is our 4 by 3 pi R cube and volume, and you are having 8R cube we have calculated into 100. If you sort out that, you will get it to be 52.4%. So we all know that packing efficiency basic formula says volume of one atom into 100 divided by volume of the cubic unit cell. So here volume of the cubic unit cell you are getting to be 8R cube. Volume of one atom, it is 4 by 3 pi R cube, and into 100, which gives you 52.4%. So from this 3, when you have calculated, you could say that the packing efficiency is CCP and HCP will have maximum packing efficiency. And next, when we are talking about the most important formula of this topic, or from solid state, the portions or the section where they ask your questions is 3 or 4 topics you can focus. That is packing efficiency, your BCC, FCC, those parts, and the other one is your crystal defects. Crystal defects, that is one important section. So when we talk about crystal defects, that is the deviation from ideal arrangement, what we call it as defects. The defects is the deviation from ideal arrangement of the constituent particles. The irregularities, you can also say, from the ideal arrangement or from the basic arrangement. What is the irregularities? We can say that is the defect. So the defect are basically of 2 types. One we can say it as a point defect, and the other one as your line defects. So we can have point defects of your 2 types. Point defects can be classified into 2 types as stoichiometric defect and impurity defect. It is stoichiometric or your impurity defect. So when we are saying it as stoichiometric defect, in this defect, the ratio of your anion and cation will remain as same as the stoichiometry of the substance not change. It does not change. So these range of your point defect do not disturb the stoichiometry of the solids. And those type of stoichiometric defects we give a term or we give a name as intrinsic defects. Stoichiometric defect which is not going to disturb or which does not disturb the stoichiometry of the solid, the term or the name we use is intrinsic defects. And whenever we are talking about non-ionic solids, they are exhibiting or they exhibit their defect as a term that is called as vacancy defects and intestinal defects. So when we use the term what is vacancy defect, in the crystal that is going to contain vacant lattice site, whichever is going to contain the vacant lattice sites or lattice point, you will say that as vacancy defect. And this defect can also develop because of the heating of the substance. It will develop because of the heating of the substance, hence that we will call it as vacant space, or you are going to say it as the defect to be vacancy defect. And when we are saying intestinal defects, that is in which the constituent particles will occupy the intestinal site or point, then they are going to call it as intestinal defect, and basically it will increase, or which increases the density of the substance. And when we are talking about your ionic solids, when we talk about ionic solids, their defects are as two types, that is your Frankel defect and Stokes defect. So when we say as your Stokes defect is this type of defect is basically caused when you are having equal number of cations and anions are missing from their lattice, when it is missing, so that their electrical neutrality is maintained. And this type of defect will occur in highly ionic compounds. This type of defect will occur in highly ionic compounds, which will have high coordination number and cations and anions of similar size. So basically your Stokes defects will also decreases the density of the substance. And in order to maintain the electrical neutrality, the number of missing cations and anions will always be equal. When we say there is some anions and cations are missing, in order to maintain the neutrality, they will always be missing in equal numbers. And when we talk about the second defect, that is your Frankel defect, this type of defect arises when an anion is missing from its lattice site and it will occupy an intestinal position. That is, you can say the crystal as a whole will remain electrically neutral because of your anions and cations remain. So basically here you will say that this is due to the large difference. If you are talking about Stokes defect, their cations and anions are almost of similar size. But when we talk about the Frankel defect, the cations and anions, this will be exhibited by those ionic compounds, or you can say ionic substance, because of their large difference in size of the atom, because of the large difference in size of the atom. And that is why it is also called as dislocation defect. It is also called as dislocation defect. And another point to be noted is this will not affect the density of the solid. It will not affect the density of the solid. And so these are all the important defects which we should know. And do remember, Frankel defect and your Stokes defect is the most important one among all. There are many questions being asked based on this concept. And the another defect which we talk about is called as impurity defect. That is crystallization of your molten NaCl with little amount of, if you are trying to do SrCl2, that will occupy. So basically we can say that it occupies the site of one ion and the other site will remain vacant. That is what we call it as our impurity defect. And you are having non-stoichiometric defect. Basically in this defect, the ratio of your cations and anions become different from your original ratio, and these defects are either due to the presence of excess metal ion or because of the deficiency of metal ions. And this non-stoichiometric defect you can classify into two types. One is called as metal excess defect and the other one is your metal excess effect. When we talk about metal excess effect is because of the anionic deficiency, or you can say anionic vacancies. And this type of defect is basically exhibited by your alkyl halide. It is basically exhibited by the alkyl halide. And when we talk about different properties of solid, we all know that it is conductors, that is solids with conductivities ranging between 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 7 are conductors. So you have certain range for them, that is the solids which will have the range of this value, you call it as conductors. The range between 10 to the power of minus 10 to 10 to the power of minus 20 to 10 to the power of minus 10, we call it as insulators. So these are all the certain properties of our solid when it is related to conductors. So when in which range the values are conductivity range, accordingly it is being categorized. Based on it, it is being categorized whether it is a solid, liquid, or. And when we are talking about a concept that is called as doping, doping is a method which is being used, or we are using a method of to increase the conductivity. When we want to increase the conductivity of the solids, conductivity is being increased by adding appropriate amount of suitable impurities. When we try to add appropriate amount of suitable impurities in it, the conductivity increases, and this is called as, or the concept is named as doping. And this can be performed with an impurity which is electron rich, or it is electron deficient than the intrinsic semiconductor, which can be your silicon or germanium. It can be silicon or germanium. And if we are saying electron rich impurities, basically in your periodic table, silicon and germanium will belong to group 14 with their four valence electron. And in their crystal, if we say, each atom will form 4 covalent bond with the surrounding atom. So when it is being doped with group 15 elements, that means which contains 5 valence electron, then they occupy some of the lattice satin in your silicon or germanium. So in this way, the we can say that doping is done, and in those two categories you will have semiconductor. It is known as n-type semiconductor because you will have the increase in conductivity is because of the negatively charged ion, and when you say it as the other one as your p-type, you will say it as positively charged ion. And if we talk about the application, that is application of our n-type and p-type, we all know that it has a great use in manufacturing our electronic components. And yes, of course, we are using diode, which is a combination of our n-type and p-type semiconductors. Transistors, they are being manufactured by keeping a layer of one type of semiconductor between two layers. So there are many applications of our n-type and p-type in our day-to-day life, or basically all the electronic instruments which we are using. And another property when we talk about, that is our magnetic property. When we say magnetic property, what do we know in it? When we are saying about the different magnetic properties of our solid, one property we say it as paramagnetic substance. Paramagnetic substance are weakly attracted on application of the magnetic field because it is because of the presence of one or more unpaired electron that will get attracted by the magnetic field. And they will lose their magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. So we call the name, or we say it as our paramagnetic. When we say about our diamagnetic, what is diamagnetic? It is a well-known fact, or this is a basic properties of our diamagnetic substance are generally, or you can say are weakly repelled by a magnetic field, and this property is represented by the substance in which all the electrons will be paired and it does not have any unpaired electrons. And basically when they ask questions, we have to do the electronic configuration and find out whether that particular given element or compound has any unpaired electrons or not. If it does not have, then you can say that the property exhibited by that particular compound or element is diamagnetic in nature. In the same way, we can say about our ferromagnetic. Ferromagnetic, we all know that we call it as ferromagnetic is basically the substances get strongly attracted towards the magnetic field, or we also say that it is permanently magnetized. It is a well-known thing which we know that it is a permanently magnetized, and whenever you try to place in a magnetic field, all the domains of the substance get oriented in the direction of our magnetic field, which will produce a strong magnetic effect and which persist or which exist even on removal of the magnetic field. And your ferromagnetic substance, we call it as a permanent magnet. We give the name as permanent magnet. And when we say as ferrimagnetic, magnetic movement of those domain in the substance are aligned either in parallel or anti-parallel direction in unequal number, and they are weakly attracted by the magnetic field. So this is all we have about our solid state. Hence, it's very important. Once again, I repeat, focus on the types of defect, focus on the packing efficiency, and focus on the different crystal lattice, that is your FCC, BCC, and primitive. So those parts are most important. Based on our analysis and concept, let us try taking a test. So if you go to NEET Premium package, we are having chapter wise test, and if you look at the color, blue color indicates that the test is not yet taken, green color indicates that the test is completed, and R is for random test if you need any additional practice in that particular chapter. So let us try taking a test. The vacant space in body centered cubic lattice, that is our BCC unit cell, is about. We have to find out the vacant space. So in BCC structure, when we see total 60%, 68% of the available volume is basically occupied by spheres. So when we say 68%, then the leftover, we can say that that is the vacant space in our body centered. So 68, that means our option A should be the right answer. So vacant space, we can say that it is 32%. Let us save that and go to next. Which of the following statement is incorrect? Which of the following statement is incorrect, we have to say. So they have given us different condition. If we look at the second one, or based on your analysis about the different defects, you can categorize that. So basically when we say Frankel defect, that is the density of your crystal having Frankel defect, they may also contain your Stokes defect, and the density of crystals having Frankel defect is identical to that of your pure crystals. So we can say that the density of crystal lattice having Frankel defect may also contain your Stokes defect is not correct, because it is going to be identical to your pure crystals. Hence our option only 2. Save that and go to next. Which of the following statements are correct? Which of the following statements are correct? They have given us Frankel defect is usually favored by a very small difference in size of the cations and anions. Frankel defect is dislocation defect. So yes, of course, Frankel defect, we call it as a dislocation defect. So your option 2 should be correct, because the ions in Frankel defect, the ion instead of expected location is found in one of our instant position. And next one, trapping of an electron in lattice leads to the formation of F center, or Stokes defect is going to involve in the absence of cations and anions. So of course our statement 2 and 3 should be correct, and that is in option D. So let us save that and go to next. Calculate the radius of molybdenum atom if the element crystallizes as body centered cubic crystal. So they have given us the density and molar mass. So as usual, we are having a formula to calculate for that. You can say in body centered cubic, there are 2 atoms per unit cell. Hence, from the expression, if we try to say R is equal to your N by A cube into your M by N A. So from this, if I want to calculate A cube, I can say that it can be so if you calculate A cube from this, and from A cube you can reach to the value of calculating A. So from this formula you can try substituting, as A cube will go R M by N A. And they have given us the value. So substitute the value. When you substitute the value, you can calculate A to be equal to 3.13 into 10 to the power of minus 8 centimeter. But in body centered cubic unit cell, atoms touch other along the cross diagonal of the cube. Hence you are having a relation. Your 4R will be is equal to root 3A. 4R we have is equal to R root 3A. So here we can use R is equal to root 3 into A value we have calculated. Either you can use it as 3.13 into 10 to the power of minus 8, or even you can say it as 313. Yeah. You can substitute in this value 313 divided by your 4, which will give you a value of 135.5. So you can, this is just a direct substitution of your formula. It's not something difficult. So we can save and go to next. The edge length of the cubic unit cell of metallic calcium is 556 pm, and if the density of the calcium is 1.54. Once again, the same formula you can apply, as saying we have your density is equal to your N by A cube into your M by your N A. So simple, again you can get your Na value, sorry, your N value, or you can substitute the values whichever they have given you as your rho A, Na and your M. So from this you can calculate N value, because they have given you the density. So immediately your N can become as your rho A cube Na by your M. You can directly substitute and calculate your N value, and based on your N value, that is if you substitute all the values here, that is you are having 556 into 10 to the power of minus 12, the whole cube, into 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23 divided by your 40. So when you calculate, you will get approximately n value to be equal to 3.98, which we can round it off and take it to be 4. So when I know that n is equal to 4, the unit cell is of course a FCC, or your face-centered unit cell, because since atoms touch each other along the face diagonal in your face center. So again, you are having the correlation. As I told you, it is very important to remember the relation between the radius and the edge for each. So you will say root 2a, and from this it is easy to calculate your r value as a by 2 root 2. You are having the for value a, it is 556, and divided by your 2 root 2, which will give you 196.6. So this is just a direct application of your formula, and all the values are mentioned in the question. So our answer is 196.6. So it should be our fourth option. Let us save that and go to next. Again, it says cesium chloride may be considered to form your interpenetrating simple primitive cubic crystal. The edge length of the unit cell they have given. We have to calculate the ionic radius. We have to calculate the ionic radius. So basically, if you see CS plus ions and Cl minus ions, CS plus ion will touch two chlorides along the cross diagonals. So in that case, if we say, we can say that your 2R of your C, that is plus your 2R of A, will give you root 3A. Because root 3A, they have mentioned that it is primitive cubic crystal. So RC, from this we can calculate it to be equal to root 3 by 2, or we can say your A minus RC, or sorry, A minus RA will be equal to root 3 by 2, and A and RA, both the values they have given in the question. So it would become once again simple to substitute, and if you substitute, you will get it as 412 minus 181, which is equal to 175.8. So 175.8, that means option 4. Save that and go to next. A solid A plus and B minus has NaCl type closest packed structure. And if the radius of the anion is 250, what is the value of the cation? Once again, it's the same format. They have given us the value of your Na. So structure of NaCl, if you see, it is having the FCC structure, that is face-centered cubic arrangement. Cl minus ions and its octahedral poles are occupied by the Na plus ion. So when I say closed packed structure, you can say Rc by Ra, they have given it to be 0.414. So from this we can say RC will become is equal to 0.414 into RA. This value is given, so we can say 0.414 into 250, which will give us 103.5. So 103.5, option C. Save that and go to next. If the radius of Cs plus is 169 and that of Cl minus is 181, and we have to predict the structure of Cs, Cl, and also the coordination number. Once again, if you calculate Rc by Ra, and both the values they have given, that is one is 169 and the other one is 181. So you will get a value, and since this value, whatever you are getting it, like let us calculate it. Rc by Ra, that is 169 by your 181, which is equal to, actually you'll get 0.94. Since this value is actually greater than your 0.732, the structure of CSCl will involve a body-centered cubic lattice where your CS plus is present at the body centered of the cube and Cl minus will be present at the corner. So immediately you can say that the coordination number of your CS plus will be equal to 8. So our option B is the right one. Save that and go to next. Lithium iodide occur as a cubical closest packing, and if the edge length of the unit cell is 624, we have to determine the ionic radii of Li plus and I minus ions. It's simple that if you are saying close, the packing has a face centered cubic unit ion. So I minus will occupy the corner and the face centered. So immediately when we say FCC, it is 4. R of I minus will be equal to your root 2 A. So R of I minus, we can calculate it as your A by your 2 root 2 and substitute the value. You can get it as your 624 divided by 2 into 1.414, which will give you 220.65. If you are talking about the edge, we will have I minus, Li plus, I minus, and so on arrangement, where your I minus will be at the corner and Li ions will be at the center. So you can add up your 2Ri minus plus your 2R of Li plus will be actually equal to your A value. So A by 2 minus your R minus 1. That will give you, so it is also a simple and direct application. That is, this is the first half. And you can say for individually they have asked, that is I minus plus your 2R of Li plus will be equal to A. So R of your Li plus will become is equal to A by 2 minus your R of I minus, which is equal to your 624 divided by 2, that is equal to minus 220.65 your value. So you can say that as your 91.35. This should have been here 220.65. 624 by 2 minus 220.65. You will get it around 91.35. So 220.65 and your 91.35. 220.65 and 91.35. Let us save that and go to next. A metal crystallizes in two cubic phase, that is face centered and body centered, whose unit cell length are 3.5 and 3.0 respectively, and we have to calculate the ratio of their density. So individually calculate the rho value, that is your expression for density. Basically we have rho is equal to our n by a cube into m by your na. For face centered, your n value is equal to 4, and for body center, your n value is equal to 2. So when we calculate the rho of your FCC by your rho of BCC, it will become as same 4 by your ratio of your n value of your FCC and a cube of your BCC by a cube of your FCC into n value of our BCC. So you can say you will get 4 divided by 3.5 the whole cube into your 3.0 they have given for the other one, that whole cube divided by your 2. If you solve this, you'll get it as 1.26. So you can say the ratio of that values is equal to 1.26. Let us save that and give end test. So here it gives you the result. Since today we have done all the 10 questions to be correct, it is indicated green in color. If suppose you are gone wrong with any of the question, it will be indicated red in color. And if we leave any answer, any question to be unattempted, it says as unanswered and the color is orange. If you click on the question, it will give you the right answer as well as the explanation of that particular answer. So if suppose you are going wrong anywhere, it is simple to find out the right answer with an explanation. That's all we have for today's class. If you have any doubts, you can reach out to us with the help of ask feature which is available here, or you can reach out to the tutors of Play 6 with the help of Telegram chat application. You can post your questions there. And if you have any difficulty in learning any of the chapter, do reach out to Play 6 management for one-to-one tutoring from the any subject teacher, that is your physics, chemistry, biology. Thank you.